Hi, welcome to another edition of Taiwan Talk. I'm your host, Tim Briggy.
And I'm Hope Go. This week we're talking about digital gender-based violence. And to do that, we invited an artist who very recently had an exhibit tied to RightsCon, which is a human rights conference that happened in Taipei a few weeks ago.
And this was very interesting because I didn't have a chance to see the exhibit before we did the conversation. But Hope, you had a chance to experience it, I should say. And I was very intrigued about how Ting Ting went about designing this exhibition and how you responded to it and kind of comparing notes after talking to the two of you.
That's right. So we're going to begin by hearing from Ting Ting Cheng, and she introduces the exhibition to myself and to Tim. And here's what she had to say.
The title of the exhibitions, they told me it's not your fault, and I told them everything will be fine. It's a work that was commissioned by FNF Foundation. The project is a 22 to 23 minute experience. The reason I'm saying that because there's a little bit difference in terms of the language you're choosing. We have Mandarin version and English version. Basically, you'll be watching a video, but the video is composed of a little bit like a print screen recording. So you wouldn't feel like you're watching a video. You will feel like you're just holding a phone and things are happening. Sometimes it's like a dating app you might be using. Sometimes it's a WhatsApp you might be using. Sometimes it's Telegram you might be using. But you don't need to operate anything.
So this is not just like an installation piece of art.
Yeah, I would call it like immersive experience. That's the reason I think it's more of an experience rather than an object. So people would like I mentioned, like you'll be giving this headphone and phone, and you kind of will be asked to interact according to what is happening. So the audio narrative coming from the headphone will be telling you to go from probably one set to another set. It's a story across 2 days.
Okay, what inspired you to take this on? Why this particular case?
The reason this project started, it was by the invitation of FNF Foundation. I think my position was quite passive. Like I was given this commission. I was asked to do a project very specific related to tech-facilitated gender-based violence. They, as a foundation, they focus on freedom and democracy on the digitally. If you look at my previous work, actually never really touched gender-based violence. It's not something I'm good at. Most of my work is actually more related to probably colonization history and racial relationship or cultural diaspora, etc. So this is quite new for me as an artist. But as a human being, I think this is something I am interested and I care. When I got an invitation, I do feel very, I would say, fortunate to have the opportunity to talk about this and to work on this. Yes.
It's interesting that you say that you've not been through it before, but you've read reports. I mean, was reading about it enough to give you a sense of what a woman really goes through?
Actually, it's a debate that continuously going on, I think, up to this day in the art scene. We kind of have a badge on our shoulder sometimes, like, oh, you're people of color, you're a woman, you're LGBT community, so you get to talk about it. And people, it's identity politics, right? Like if you're not this group of people, you don't get to talk about it. And partly I really agree with this logic, actually. At the same time, I think we also need to understand, like, if we all limit ourselves on only a thing we've been through to talk about, it's just such a shame. This is a very sensitive and tragic and uncomfortable experience. I have been through something really bad in my life. And I'm not sure I want to talk about it in my work. I'm not saying people shouldn't. If people have the capacity and ability, go for it, that's amazing. But I'm not sure I can. I think to put that pressure on people actually been through that, saying like, now you need to be this advocate. You need to come out to speak for people who have shared the same experience. I think it's quite a lot to ask too, like no one need to have that burden on themselves. It's not their responsibility to educate us. Of course, we do our best and we hope this can still be an experience that people can feel comfortable with, from a distance.
What was the hardest part of writing that and preparing the experience? What were the points where you felt like this could have gone one way or the other for you?
I was invited end of June, I remember very well, and the first exhibition last year was beginning of September. So I have like 2 months, kind of. I was going through everything, all the material, interviews, and it's just really, really heavy information. And it's really hard to process. And so I think that was the most difficult part. Like, I was going through my therapist about the secondary trauma. I'm not saying like, like I'm so involved, but like you really kind of sometimes you take some stories in and you start to just feel, honestly, very bluntly, just like you feel very bad. And I remember one of the night I really couldn't sleep and I tossing around and I woke up and decided to write everything.
Now, I was kind of just a little bit more curious about how people have been responding to this exhibit. And have you noticed any difference in maybe the way younger people or older people or Western, non-Taiwanese people and Taiwanese people may be responding to maybe the same thing, but each person sees it in a different way?
I didn't see much difference regarding demographic groups, but I do see different reaction, probably a little bit related to gender, and also most likely, honestly, just depends on person by person.
Okay.
Yeah, and there are people who I think depends on personality, and some people really project themselves in the subject. So as Hope experienced that, you would know, like, you've been asked to imagine you're this person. So you're not there to watch something to happen. You're there to say, okay, you do this, you do that, you are that person. And actually, I try very hard to make it genderless. I'm the voiceover, so you can see a female voice talking to you. But I'm hoping a man can imagine that's them as well. I'm trying to make it like everyone can relate.
Because it was very non-explicit how that video came to be. And I was telling Tim that I experienced a moment of confusion.
For me, that was quite intentional as well, because from the interview I read, I think a lot of people who've been through like tech facilitated gender-based violence, a lot of time you don't know how did it happen. Especially in this storyline, I actually was implying it's a deep fake because I mentioned like the scene didn't happen. Yeah, so a lot of people actually, they saw it, they don't know how. They don't know if a certain picture they sent were altered. They don't know who did it. I kind of want to generate that as well, like, because, so imagine this person's talking to someone on a dating app. This person actually appears to be quite friendly, and all the so-called mildness was actually intentional, like, because this is how it happened. There's no villain. You don't feel like, oh my God. Because when it's a villain, you know. Like, okay, this is a bad person. I'm going to stop talking to them. So the worst case is there's no villain. Like, everything is very mild.
Right.
All these people sound like very nice. You don't know. Probably it's even not related to this person you're talking to. Probably you don't know.
No. I can see that. So in the moment, it maybe seems innocent. And then later you realize maybe someone has some more devious intentions. Or maybe they're not being devious, but maybe you don't understand what they're doing. And that confusion can also create fear. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about. This is the whole fear of these types of situations.
Yeah, so the mile was actually intentional in a way, yeah.
What did you want the audience to take away from that experience?
We talked a lot about this issue with the foundation, also with the press, when we discussed it. And I think, of course, in the most ideal world, like, I would like to reach everyone. But, for example, like, I do have a feeling that it might be quite difficult or not common if I really reach the people behind the person run those websites, people who not even purchase, people who made those, videos and stuff. I guess they probably wouldn't come to experience or experience like that. But I guess for me, I really hope, because they are not the only people causing harm, though, if I'm being honest. Like, from a lot of stories you will see, the society has quite a lot of responsibility too, if I'm being honest. Like, for example, in the Korea's case, like Room Number N, or even some cases in Taiwan, you will see a lot of people are blackmailed to send more nude or sexy, well, I shouldn't use the word sexy, like sexually explicit pictures. So they because they are scared the first one being leaked to family and friends. And when I was reading this, I keep imagining if people don't judge the first one, and they probably can end there. If people just don't click, don't forward, and think, oh, what's a big deal? No one cares. Then it probably can end there. So, and also you see, even on the related news, even now, like, you see people make horrible comments. Like, oh, don't flatter yourself. No one's interested in your nude. Or like, oh, gross. It's your own fault because you send those pictures. Why are you dating app to begin with? So I feel like if you manage to, I don't know, just reach these people, I think it will be a great triumph for me already. Like, I know these people, like, they probably don't mean anything. They probably just think it's harmless because it's internet. You don't really see these people. You think it's okay. So I feel like whenever you want to forward something, if you want to comment something, just think twice, like, just don't comment even. I feel like just keep that thought to yourself, like, because I think this hurts. So I think that's the first thing. We need to understand it's not these people's fault. People have right to do these things. People should be protected. People's news sent to one person doesn't mean it's agreed to share among the public. This is not how it's supposed to work. So stop blaming these people and stop hurting these people. It just doesn't help. Keep your thought to yourself if you have to think that way. And secondly, I'm also hoping to reach people who've been through similar situation. You would know, like, it's not your fault. Like, it's okay. Like, everyone may mistake, despite I don't even want to use that word. Like, this happens. And it's not your fault. It's these people. And it's okay. The society is supposed to and will accept you, and your life can move on. And I think that's really important for me. Like the title suggested, like, it's not your fault and everything will be fine.
You were listening to Ting Ting Cheng. I'm Hope Go.
And I'm Tim Berge.
You can catch this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you download your podcasts.
And leave a comment at the same time because we'd love to know what you think about our conversations.
Thank you for tuning in.